Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into an absolutely grueling 7-day survival and engineering challenge. We'll be following Jimmy and his crew as they attempt something genuinely crazy, building a sailboat entirely from scratch just across the vast Pacific Ocean. We're going to break down exactly how a group of 5 friends got dropped onto a deserted island with essentially nothing and explore the intense physical, mental, and mechanical hurdles they had to overcome just to try and make it back to civilization. Right off the bat, we need to talk about this ominous warning from the crew's resident boat expert, Haas. It perfectly sets the life or death stakes of their mission. This quote really frames the grim reality of their situation. I mean, it wasn't just about whether they could tie some logs together. It was this stark realization that even if they engineered the perfect boat, they were ultimately at the absolute mercy of Mother Nature. Section 1. Stranded in the Pacific. 5 friends versus Mother Nature.
So let's rewind a bit to day 1. The premise here is simple, but man, is it punishing. Jimmy challenged his friends, Chandler, Nolan, Darius, and Hazy, to see if a group of modern guys could genuinely survive and escape a deserted island. They were given a target island way off in the distance, but actually getting there? Well, that meant forging a path through an ocean of infinite danger, relying strictly on their wits and whatever random debris they could scavenge.
And before they even hit the water, the island itself was actively trying to take them out. They were dealing with 100-degree heat that was just cooking them like lobsters. Just gathering materials meant risking encounters with deadly fertile ant snakes or yellow eyelash vipers in the jungle. And imagine trying to get some sleep in that brutal heat, only to wake up, like Nolan did, to a massive wandering banana spider sitting right in your bed. Throw in a terrifyingly low water supply, and the environment was pushing them to the brink from minute 1.
Moving on to Section 2, Engineering an Escape, turning trash into a 1,000-pound capacity sailboat. To get off this rock, they couldn't just lash together a flimsy raft. They had to engineer a vessel capable of holding 1,000 pounds. Luckily, because large ships pass through the area, the island is basically a catch-all for washed-up ocean trash. After hours of scouring the rocks, they struck gold: 4 perfectly intact, sealed blue barrels to act as buoyant hulls. With Hatse taking the lead, they harvested bamboo from that snake-infested jungle, meticulously lashed together 17 crossbeams to build a cradle, and rigged up a traditional Polynesian crab sail. It's like a giant puzzle with life-or-death stakes.
Okay, here's where it gets really MacGyver. They actually tried boiling washed-up plastic to mold into sturdy paddles, but after that was a total bust, they had to improvise. They ended up with oars that honestly looked a little bit more like flags than paddles, but as Haze pointed out, a skeg, which is essentially a fin underneath the boat, is absolutely vital. Without it, the ocean will just spin the boat in endless circles. So learning completely on the fly, they fashioned these crucial steering components out of scrap metal and bamboo.
Which brings us to Section 3, Pushed to the Limit, the physical and psychological breaking point. 60. Take a second to really think about that number. Crew member Nolan suffered over 60 bug bites on his arms and hands alone. Engineering the boat was only half the battle. Working these grueling 12-hour days under an unyielding sun with 0 proper shade meant their bodies were simply breaking down. Chandler started getting tingly fingers and tunnel vision, barely able to carry supplies, and Jimmy was legitimately terrified that the sheer physical toll was going to push them completely past their limits. And the real kicker? Their water supply. With over half their water already gone early in the build, they were on a terrifying ticking clock. The remaining water simply would not support another week on the island. This physical degradation forced a rigid, unbreakable deadline. They either finished the boat and launched on day 7, or they risked dying of dehydration. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. Every single drop of sweat literally meant your time was running out. All right, Section 4, the open ocean crossing, a 12-hour battle against the tides. Launch day arrives. At the start, this extreme new moon tide perfectly sucks them away from the island. So far, so good, right? But exactly 45 minutes in, the nightmare begins. They hit this open ocean channel where the current aggressively tries to drag them sideways into the infinite Pacific. It turns into an absolute war of attrition. Nolan snaps his paddle, parts of the boat are literally falling into the ocean. By hour 6, Jimmy is battling intense seasickness, and Chandler is practically asleep from pure exhaustion. By hour 7, they are totally stranded. Forward progress hits 0. It wasn't until hour 8 that the tide miraculously shifted in their favor, finally pulling them toward their target land. Now for Section 5, a heartbreaking defeat. So close, yet so far.
You know that feeling of catching a sudden second wind? Escaping that massive channel gave them exactly that. The crew, sunburned, dehydrated, violently seasick, somehow rallied together. They rowed in perfect unison. As they watched the GPS numbers tick down, 2.9 miles, 1.7, 1.0, 0.6, they could actually see their target growing larger on the horizon. They were feeling the pure euphoria of impending victory, working together to get 95% of the way there.
0.5 miles, just half a mile. They were so unbelievably close, they almost could have jumped in and swam the rest of the way. But the ocean wasn't done with them just yet. With only 20 short minutes left before the extreme new moon tide was scheduled to change, disaster struck. The winds abruptly shifted. The very current that had been carrying them to salvation suddenly decided to rip them backward into the Pacific. The water pushing behind them was now violently pushing against them. A gnarly cross breeze hit, totally stalling out their crab sail. They were paddling desperately, screaming heave over the crashing waves. But despite giving it every last ounce of human strength, they were forced to just helplessly watch their target island shrink back into the distance. It's absolutely crushing. After nearly 12 straight hours of nonstop paddling, they had to face reality, fire a flare, and call for a helicopter rescue. Jimmy ended the challenge with this bitterly resolute vow, saying, "I'm not failing again." It was dead quiet on that boat. Think about it. 7 days of building, 60 bug bites, near heat stroke, 12 hours of rowing, all to miss their goal by less than a mile, simply because they were 20 minutes too late for the tide. So, as we wrap up this explainer, I really want to leave you with this question to ponder. If nature completely controls the tides and the winds, how much of survival is actually in our hands? Jimmy and his crew did literally everything right. They scavenged brilliantly, built a buoyant vessel from trash, and pushed through extreme human exhaustion. But sometimes, when Mother Nature decides you're not winning today, you just aren't. Thanks for hanging out with me to break down this incredible survival test. It really makes you rethink what it truly takes to conquer the elements, doesn't it? Catch you next time.